I don't know how any of you guys are going and going and going. I know you gotta be at the same level of mental health as me. Every day it's something new between the fucking news and the fucking stupid Biden and stupid Trump. This country's fucked. Every day we're spending more and more money. None of us are getting ahead. The rich people are the ones that are fucking getting ahead. I'm tired of struggling.
They told us America was the land of opportunity, but what happens when the opportunity runs out? Why are everyday Americans working 2 jobs, skipping meals, and still drowning in bills? Why is it that in the richest country on earth, millions can't even afford to live? This isn't just inflation, this is a full-blown cost of living crisis, and it's silently suffocating millions. Stay with me because what you're about to hear might just explain why your paycheck feels like a joke and why the American dream feels more like a trap.
Americans are so broke and they don't even realize it. I always get Americans tell me, oh, but people in Mexico only make $20 a day. You can get a full meal here for $2. The metro in Mexico City costs 5 pesos, which is like 25 cents. I can go to the market right now and buy 3 kilos of mangoes for like $2. Yeah, people make less money here, but the cost of living is also lower. Americans think that everywhere is like the US. Now, check this out. Let's say you live in the US and you make $3,500 a month after taxes. I'm being generous. Rent, $2,000. Car payment, $500. Car insurance, $200. Health insurance, $200. Phone bill, $100. Wi-Fi bill, $50. Light bill, $150. Water bill, $100. What's the point of making more money if you don't get to keep any of it? Who cares if you make $4,000 a month if you don't get to keep any of it? 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, and that includes half of 6-figure earners. 80% of you guys are in debt and don't own anything, and half of you guys don't even have $500 in your savings account. But let's call other countries poor and let's call other people poor. Living paycheck to paycheck your whole life and being in debt your whole life should be considered poverty, but it's not. And I know this is going to hurt a lot of Americans, but it's the truth. The US system wants you to spend every waking moment of your life working and paying into a system that will never benefit you. Slaving away your whole life just to be retired for a measly 10 years. At least here in Mexico, we own our things, we own our houses, we own our cars, we're not in debt. But anyways, that's...
The cost of living in this country is currently, it's not going to be, it is currently unsustainable. And there are people that they know this, but then they'll still look at somebody else that's struggling and then tell them they're not doing good enough. I want you to imagine somebody that makes $75,000 a year. That's a pretty high up wage in terms of like top earners in this country, $75,000 a year. And we're going to go through some things here. This is a person with no debt outside of a car. And please don't hit me with the, you can go buy a car for, shut up, you can't, shut up, stop saying ridiculous things. An entry-level decent car is $30,000. So this person who puts $200 a month into insurance and they pay 5% into their 401k because shut up, people should be able to put money into their retirement. Because if you're not doing it now, you're never going to get to start doing it later. So after those two things come out of their paycheck, and their taxes are paid, they bring home $53,850 a year from a $75,000 paycheck. Average rent in my state for a 1-bedroom apartment, because an adult should be able to live by themselves, $1,700. That car payment at 6% for an entry-level, very reasonable sedan, nothing fancy, that car payment's $579 a month. Car insurance, $240 or so a month for a lot of vehicles in this day and age. You're a young person, you've got a nice job, but the insurance companies still want to screw you over. Food. You only cook at home. You never, ever go out. You only cook at home and you only eat decent quality food because a human being should be allowed to eat decent quality food. You pay $879 a month for that. You spend $250 a month in gas. You wear and tear on your car $100 a month. $80 for your phone, $80 for your internet, $175 a month for your electricity, $70 for your water, $20 for your cash. You make $75,000 a year, and outside of a car payment, you have zero debt. Do you know how much money you have left over annually at a $75,000 wage? You do nothing. You don't own a Netflix. You don't go out on a date. You don't pay to go to a park. You don't go watch a movie. You do nothing. If you can't find it on the internet for free, you don't get to do it. If you can't cook it at home for your $800, you don't get to do it. You have $3,700 left over annually. That's like $320 a month. And there's going to be, well, dog's 300. Shut up. Shut your stupid, contrarian, edgelord mouth. That's not a doctor bill, because God knows just because we have insurance doesn't mean that we don't still pay far out the ass when we go to the doctors. People like to be entertained. They want to date. They want to... There's those of you out there that will tell somebody living like this on $75,000 a year before taxes that they are not doing what they're supposed to do, that they should get a second job, that they should get a side hustle, that they should get a better job. And the fact that you would look at somebody with no debt other than a car and say something like this to them means objectively you're a moron and you live in a fantasy world. This is unsustainable.
We live in central Illinois. Our electric rates just went up 50%. My nephew has a ranch home that's probably 1,200 square feet, and his bill went from $260 to $560 in the last month. No difference in usage. The company just increased their rates 50%. So I'm curious if you have a similar home in a surrounding state, what you pay.
So let's break it down. In 2025, the average American household is spending over 60% of their income just to cover the basics. That is rent, groceries, gas, and even healthcare. And that's not even counting student loans, credit card debt, or even childcare. Let's look at housing. Forget about owning a home. Rent for a one-bedroom in major cities now costs more than a full-time paycheck. Another thing, groceries. A single bag of food essentials can run you $100, and that's without meat, eggs, and milk or even luxury items currently. Gas prices, they are still sky high. And if you drive to work, that's another invisible tax on the working class. Here's the part they don't want to talk about. While you're tightening your belt, America's billionaires are making money than ever before. And in fact, just 1% of the population controls over 40% of the wealth in this country. How did we get here? It started with decades of stagnant wages. While the cost of everything else soared, America's salaries barely budged. And in corporate consolidation, where mega companies control everything from food to housing, and you get price gouging disguised as inflation. But here's the kicker. Government support is vanishing. And programs that used to help families bridge the gap have been slashed or even made very impossible to qualify for. Minimum wage still stuck. Affordable housing, wait lists. Universal healthcare, still just but a dream. And who suffers the most? It's definitely the middle class and the working poor. Families living paycheck, those that have or living paycheck to paycheck. Millennials and Gen Z with crushing student debt. Seniors on fixed incomes forced to choose between medication and meals. But the media isn't covering this like the emergency it is. Why? Because normalized suffering is profitable. If you're too exhausted to fight back, too broke to organize, or too busy surviving, you'll never demand change. So, what can be done? We need to name the crisis and demand action. This isn't a budgeting issue. This is a systemic failure. So, living in America should not feel like economic warfare. And yet, for millions of us, it does. So, if this resonates with you, don't just scroll, share, speak up, because until we call it what it is, a crisis, it will keep getting worse.